The plane that completely vanished from the sky in 2014 has left no trace until today. No distress call, no wreckage, nothing at all, as if it never even existed. It remains the strangest mystery in aviation history. More than 26 countries have searched for it, yet they found no sign of the plane or the 239 people on board. This was Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, the aviation disaster I'm about to tell you about. It happened in 2014, and even now, in 2025, the world is still shaken by it. What happened to this plane is not just strange, it's beyond strange, and everything I'm going to share with you comes from official sources, confirmed reports, and verified testimonies. It was Friday, March 7th, 2014 at 11 p.m. in Kuala Lumpur International Airport. A flight was scheduled to depart from there to Beijing, China. The flight number was MH370 and the aircraft was a Boeing 777-200ER, one of the safest and most advanced planes of its time. The captain of the flight was Zahari Ahmad Shah, a 53-year-old pilot with 18,000 hours of flying experience. His co-pilot was Farik Abdul Hamid, a 27-year-old young man who was also highly qualified, with 2,813 hours of flying time. On board that night were 227 passengers from 15 different nationalities. The majority of them were on board were 153 Chinese passengers, 38 Malaysians, and the rest from countries like France, Canada, and India. Along with the 12 crew members, the total number of people on the plane was 239. At 12:41 a.m., the aircraft took off from the airport and climbed into the sky. The weather was calm, the conditions were clear, no warnings, no unusual signs. Just minutes after takeoff, the captain contacted Malaysian Air Traffic Control as usual. At exactly 1:19 a.m., his last words were recorded, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Sadly, that was the last time anyone ever heard from the flight. Only 2 minutes later, the plane completely disappeared from civilian radar. But this didn't mean it had crashed, because the military radar was still detecting it. What was strange, however, is that suddenly the aircraft's transponder and all communication systems were switched off. The plane stopped transmitting any signal. Then, out of nowhere, the aircraft changed its route. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, it turned back across Malaysia, flying over Penang Island, and then headed toward the Andaman Sea. At that time, the passengers likely noticed nothing unusual, but on the ground, chaos was spreading, control towers and officials were shocked, and the entire world was stunned. Civilian radar completely lost the signal from the plane. It became like a ghost in the sky, as if it didn't exist at all. What's strange is that, at the very same time, the captain's mobile phone was detected by a cell tower in Penang. No call was made, but the phone briefly connected to the network, raising even more questions later. Then, exactly 1 hour later, at 2 a.m., satellites recorded that the aircraft had automatically reconnected with the system. From then on, faint handshake signals began appearing every hour, as if the plane was whispering, "I'm still here, I'm still alive." These signals continued for 7 straight hours before disappearing completely. Investigators assume this was the moment the plane's fuel finally ran out and it must have crashed somewhere into the ocean. By then, the world had been thrown into chaos. Malaysia, China, and countless other nations had no answers. Families of the passengers were crying, the media was in a frenzy, and governments were under enormous pressure. This marked the beginning of the largest search operation in modern aviation history. A total of 26 countries joined the mission, deploying ships, submarines, aircraft, and advanced scanning systems. More than 1,200 square kilometers of the ocean were mapped and searched with cutting-edge technology, desperately looking for any trace of flight MH370. No wreckage, no trace, nothing. Imagine this: 60 ships and 50 aircraft scanned more than 4.5 million square kilometers of ocean surface, and still, they found absolutely nothing. No black box, no main debris field. It was as if the sky had swallowed the plane whole. Then, after 1 year and 4 months, the first real clue finally appeared. A fisherman accidentally discovered a piece of the plane's wing called a flaperon on the shores of Réunion Island in the Indian Ocean. From that moment on, more fragments began to surface, some in Mozambique, others in Madagascar, South Africa, and Tanzania. Experts confirmed that these pieces indeed belonged to flight MH370. This confirmed one thing: the plane had gone down in the Indian Ocean, but exactly where, no one knew. The wreckage was scattered across faraway locations carried by the ocean currents. At this point, all eyes turned toward the captain of the flight, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. Many began to speculate. Was it suicide? Was the plane hijacked? Was he threatened or forced into changing course? The questions kept piling up, but the truth remained unknown. Later, investigators discovered something curious. At his home, the captain had a flight simulator. Investigators later examined the captain's flight simulator at home and discovered saved routes leading toward the Indian Ocean. But aviation experts agreed that this alone didn't prove anything. It was simply part of his training routine. All official reports confirmed that the captain was in good health, with no psychological issues, no financial problems, no medical conditions, and no signs of unusual behavior before the flight. He had been cleared for duty. After the massive search ended in failure, countless theories began to emerge. Some claimed the plane had been hijacked and hidden in a secret military base. Others argued the captain may have committed suicide and deliberately crashed the plane. Another theory suggested there might have been a fire in the cockpit, which knocked the crew unconscious, leaving the aircraft to fly on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and fell into the ocean. There were even claims that a military base could have accidentally or deliberately shot it down with a missile. But none of these theories had any solid evidence to confirm or disprove them. Finally, in 2018, Malaysia released its official final report. The conclusion: the true cause of the disappearance of flight MH370 remains unknown. There was no evidence of hijacking, no proof of terrorism, and no indication of any mechanical failure. So, what really happened to them? What was their fate? To this day, nobody knows. The Malaysian government, desperate for answers, signed a contract with a company called Ocean Infinity. The deal was clear: no find, no fee. In other words, they wouldn't get paid unless they actually found the wreckage. The maximum payout was set at $70 million, with a search limit of 90 days, not counting resupply days. Ocean Infinity did everything it could and more. They deployed advanced technologies and state-of-the-art autonomous underwater vehicles, capable of diving to depths of 6,000 meters in the ocean. But after more than 90 days of scanning, the result was the same: nothing. Not a trace. Since then, every single year on the anniversary of the tragedy, the families of the passengers gather. Some break down in tears, others can barely stand from the weight of grief, holding up photos of their loved ones. They protest, demanding the Malaysian government resume the search. For them, the years of waiting, since 2014 until now in 2025, have been a torture far worse than the tragedy itself. And here's the update. In 2025, the Malaysian government has decided to give Ocean Infinity another chance to search again. With new technology and advanced methods, maybe, just maybe, this time they'll find the wreckage, or at least the black box, so that the families can finally have peace of mind. And that, my friends, is everything about Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. Now tell me, what do you think? What's your theory about what really happened?